Hi guys, welcome to another weekly Laser Talk, and this time we're actually going to do a pickups video because I've been getting a whole bunch of Laserdiscs come in the past month or so, and I decided to move Laserdisc pickups specifically away from just our normal pickups videos and do them separately during one of the weekly Laser Talk things here. So this is the first time I'm doing that because I have a ton of stuff and a good variety, and the most special, interesting, fascinating stuff I'm going to leave to the very end. Start with some of the oddball stuff here, just kind of random. Walt Disney Studio Film Collection of Escape to Witch Mountain. I've always loved this movie. The second one I don't believe was released on Laserdisc. I can't find any information saying that it was. I'm pretty sure only the first one was, and I mean, this is the best one. It's a very good standalone, very good movie. Was not a fan of that remake with The Rock, but this is a great movie, really interesting. Definitely a childhood favorite. Another one here going a completely different direction, the deluxe letterbox edition of Body of Evidence. I've always been a big Madonna fan as far as her music, especially the 80s, but I've never really gotten into her limited acting career. So this is one that I have not seen before, and I'm very excited. I haven't put it in yet, but yeah, very happy to have that first experience be on a nice Laserdisc release, so I'm very excited for that. A couple that I have watched here, this one I've actually gone through twice because there's a certain time period of TV, especially the 60s, that I really, really love. I love 60s TV. My wife will tell you she gets annoyed. I watch usually either the Dick Van Dyke Show or 9 times out of 10 Bewitched, almost every night before bed. But I also really like the Addams Family. Definitely better than the Munsters. Munsters are good, but the Addams Family is fantastic. So they got some volume 4 here of the Addams Family with 4 episodes, 2 per side, and they look absolutely fantastic. And it even says here, or was it on the front or the back here, I forget. Am I reading it? But yeah, on the back here it even says how it was originally sourced from the 35mm print, so very cool. Absolutely fantastic release if you like that show. There were a handful of volumes, I can't remember off the top of my head, I want to say 6 volumes maybe of the TV series released on Laserdisc, plus there's a special collection with a few more episodes, and then some of the cartoons, things like that, and then also the more modern 90s movies here, and this is really good. Out of those, I mean, this is amazing. This is a faithful representation of the original series, slightly more of a 90s vibe to it, but fantastic. I always love this. As far as an old TV series coming back decades later in movie form, amazing. This is a great movie, so I watched that too. And then we have some here starring my favorite actor of all time, one with a more minor role, which I had not seen before, but the deluxe letterbox edition of Tom Thumb. And we'll see here if you know who that is here, because we're on the cover of the next one here, and in pristine shape, these next two, and thankfully, because they are great movies. But again, deluxe letterbox edition of The World of Henry Orient, starring Peter Sellers, my absolute favorite actor of all time. These are pristine, and just nice thick plastic covers here that I'm not taking them out of. Beautiful print. I watched this yesterday, and just fantastic. It blows away my beat up old VHS copy, which is the only one I had there, but one that I've seen on VHS and DVD, and the sound quality in particular is so much better on this version. I'll never watch another version again. Video quality on par, I'd say, with the DVD release. Pretty comparable there, but the sound quality on this is so much better. The Party. I love The Party. So this is absolutely amazing. This is one of my favorite non-Pink Panther Peter Sellers movies. I've always found it to be completely hilarious, and anytime that Sellers is with Blake Edwards, it's absolute magic. I haven't seen anything that Blake Edwards directed and Peter Sellers starred in that wasn't just an unbelievable movie. That's easily one of my favorites. And there's something about the tone of The Party. A lot of people, it's a hard one for me to decide when to show it to people, because I know if you're not a fan of that slow pacing that is in a lot of movies like this, a lot of Blake Edwards will have that in, say, A Shot in the Dark, that very long, slow intro sequence and things like that. It's definitely something where if you're not a fan of the pacing, you're not going to like this movie at all. You're not going to find it funny at all. It's a definite love-hate type movie. I absolutely love it. I love the pacing and the style of it. Just absolutely incredible comedy. And then I got from one seller a whole collection here. Well, whole collection, but a whole bunch, and more than I had because I had none. Babylon 5. So you can't go wrong with Babylon 5, and anything sci-fi, particularly that 90s era sci-fi that I love, X-Files, Star Trek. Any of that stuff looks great on Laserdisc, and Babylon 5 is no exception. Babylon 5 is so weird, though. I'm going to have a DVD set of the whole thing, because yeah, the LaserDisc releases are very odd. All of Season 1, I think all of Season 1, here's part of Season 1 here, was released on LaserDisc, and then aside from that, the only other season that was released completely on the format was Season 5, the kind of weak season, because they weren't really sure they were going to get a 5th season, mostly wrapped up in Season 4. And Season 2, part of it was released. I don't think any of Season 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember seeing anything about Season 3 being released at all in the format. And then part of Season 4 was released. So bits and pieces, and then all of Season 5, and I think all of 1. But I have a good chunk of Season 5 now, too. Well, In the Beginning, which is the first movie here. They also have very weird numbering sometimes, too, because I think there's an issue with the Season 2 discs where they started with like 2.0, 2.1, 2.2, and then I think skipped to 2.4 because 2.3 doesn't exist because they numbered something weird, and it's very strange. But the releases that are here are absolutely fantastic. They look great. I've watched all these so far. Just absolutely amazing. I'm so happy to have them. And this one here, actually, all the Babylon 5 discs were in amazing shape. This one is the only one that wasn't brand new sealed. It still had most of the plastic on it, was open, but the other ones that don't have the plastic anymore, I'm going to put nicer sleeves on them. They were actually brand new sealed, which is amazing to get brand new sealed LaserDiscs at all. Even just the colors on even the artwork, and just look at this as a collector's thing. Even if you had the whole thing on DVD or some other format, like, just amazing. But definitely my preferred way to watch just about anything, obviously, if it's on the format. But yeah, just incredible. So I have a good chunk of Season 5 already. And now moving on to the oddball stuff, and this is an interesting one because half of these are not in their original sleeves. They're loose discs. The other half are in their original sleeves. And normally it wouldn't be something I would go for, but these were the kind of thing that I don't know when or if I will ever see them again. They're very interesting release, and I got them for super cheap. I pretty much got this whole next batch here for, I think with shipping, it was about $9, the whole thing. So, I mean, it was basically free, these other discs that are ones I'm probably not going to find anyway. But a couple really interesting ones here. One, Chow Yun Fat, Witch from Nepal. And all of these here, I'll show you the cover of one before I start talking about this. But they're all Japanese pressings of Hong Kong movies. Most of them are, with the exception of some of this, I think it's the only one actually that was released outside of that region. And they are all in Cantonese. Some of them also have another soundtrack in Mandarin, but most of them they're all in the original Cantonese at least, which is awesome. I love to have that. And some of these have hard-coded in them because they're Japanese pressings. This one, like Witch from Nepal, has Japanese subtitles. And it's a very interesting experience because those are two languages that I've been slowly trying to learn. Japanese I've been studying for a couple of years, Cantonese like less than a year, very little. But so in my mind, I'm hearing Cantonese and occasionally recognizing a word or two and trying to read the Japanese, but my Japanese reading level is not enough to keep up a lot of times with subtitles, because when you're talking, it goes too fast back and forth, and like if too much kanji shows up, forget about it. But at the same time, I'm trying to translate some Japanese words that I'm seeing into English in my mind, but hearing Cantonese, and when I recognize a word, it is the most messed up experience. I can't even explain it. What the heck's happening? But this is one I had seen before. That was really cool. The Witch from Nepal, and this is one that I'll get a different release. There's an actual Hong Kong print that I do want to get complete in, so this is kind of going to be a backup copy, and it's a fun movie. If you haven't seen it before with Chow Yun Fat, it's to me, I think it kind of reminds me of Big Trouble in Little China, but with a more focus on the romance in many ways, especially when you get towards the end of the movie. Special effects and the style of that last big fight, the last few sections of the movie, it looks a lot. It reminds me visually and even tonally a lot of Big Trouble in Little China. Before that, it definitely a really interesting focus. I don't want to spoil too much of the plot of the movie, but pretty much Chow Yun Fat's character is chosen to save this temple by this mysterious woman who has somewhat mysterious powers, and he starts to gain control of his own powers and has a bit of a love affair with this woman, even though he already is with somebody else, and they're trying to defend this temple from I would describe him, another powerful creature with sort of cat-like attributes there, without trying to spoil too much. But a very interesting movie, one you should check out if you can find it. I don't know if there is an actual official release over here. I know I've seen bootleg versions with like English subtitles and stuff, but I don't know there's an actual official one. But the last two loose LaserDisc ones here, Happy Bigamist, which stars Kenny B as a newly married man whose life gets turned upside down when his ex-wife is forced to move in with him and his new bride, and a whole romantic quadrangle stars all these different characters, and his mother liking his ex-wife more than his current wife, and it actually turned out to be a really fantastic romantic comedy. I was not expecting a whole lot when I put it in. I had never heard of this one before. Okay, whatever. 80s Hong Kong romantic comedy. It was great. I actually really liked it, and I was surprised at the beginning scene. I'm like, I recognize that person. There's a woman in the rain and with sunglasses and stuff, and you can barely see her at first. I'm like, is that? It is. It's Anita Moy. I'm like, holy crap. So, okay, why haven't I heard of this movie before? It was great. It was definitely a lot of fun. Check that one out. Happy Bigamist would be the English title there. Find that one if you can. It's actually really, really funny. And another really funny one. This one is actually from 70. Oh my gosh, what is 76? I want to say. But Mr. Boo. It's Private Eyes, I think, is the English subtitle would be there. This is one of the first, if not the first. Mr. Boo was a pretty popular character. I think they're considered comedy classics from the late 70s into the early 80s. He's actually ends up being in a crossover with another popular character from the 80s, but Pom Pom. But yeah, this is a really funny movie. The disc isn't in perfect shape. The other ones are all pristine. They've played perfectly in great shape. This one, there's a little bit on the edges here. I probably can't see there. It's peeling just a tiny bit, and there's a little bit of laser rot, but someday I'll find another copy of this. It was pretty good, and I like the rest of the movies because I hadn't seen them before. This is one I knew existed, but I had never seen any of the Mr. Boo, Private Eyes, any of those movies here. But it was really funny. It's again another sort of action comedy about a Hong Kong detective agency, and very visual humor. It's one of those that, while I was watching, I was able to enjoy it, even though this one didn't have, that one didn't have any subtitles whatsoever, but even not being able to understand 99% of the language, there was enough visual comedy that I could get what was happening. It was really, really good. So that's one I want to research a little bit more and find out more about the series itself. Again, series I had not seen before, just kind of knew that existed. But I was able to watch that, and I mentioned a character that he crosses over with, and he doesn't cross over in this one, but another popular character, Pom Pom. This is a really funny movie. Again, this one had some, it's a Cantonese version, so one that I would have to look up to give you 100% of the details, but one that's, again, very visual comedy focused, and the tiny bit that I could understand and knew exactly what was happening even without it. That's one thing that's nice about certain comedians, especially from this era in Hong Kong. There's a lot of visual comedy that you can appreciate and understand what's going on, even if you don't understand everything. And it's one's gonna be fun, as I am learning the language over the course of years, to be able to rewatch a lot of these and understand more and more each time, even if they're ones that there isn't a lot of English information on, which some of these, it's hard to find some information on. But yeah, this was another really funny one here. I love that cover art. Great. And two other good ones here. Another great, very visual action comedy here, Hero of Beggars. I love, again, this cover right here. The back is absolutely fantastic. Another great Cantonese language release. And yes, this is amazing. I love this. And this is one I actually had a bit of an odyssey with, trying to figure out, because on the back it actually says Cantonese version with Chinese and English subtitle. And I was like, wow, this is the only one of the bunch that has English subtitles. Like, okay, I can fully enjoy that without having to look up any information. And of course, if you are a fan of Jackie Chan or a lot of very popular sort of the 80s pop culture movies, here's Maggie right here. So a lot of great movies that she's in, Maggie Chung. So great. And The Bachelor's Swan Song. This was another romantic comedy. This one not an action romantic comedy like the other ones, but one that was still very, very enjoyable. And I was trying to figure out, I'm like, what the heck? I know it didn't have subtitles burned in. Usually, especially with Japanese pressings, you'll have whatever the original language was, Cantonese, Mandarin, English, French, whatever, with Japanese subtitles, burned in, just like they're always there. And this one did not. I'm like, okay, where are these subtitles? And the English subtitles, and I was messing around with the different settings and audio tracks and like trying to figure this whole thing out. And I learned something about LaserDisc that I had not known before, because I'd never encountered it before in the just couple years that I've really been getting into LaserDisc collecting, things like that. LDG which it gives you, basically, it's like closed captioning in the US. It's the same sort of function, and a lot of Asian players, a lot of like Hong Kong, Japanese players would have it built in a lot of models where it'll give you extra subtitling options, because especially in that region, I feel there would be a lot of usage for that with so many different, the popularity of 80s and early 90s Hong Kong features being in Cantonese and also needing Mandarin and probably needing Japanese to go over to the Japanese market, which is a big LaserDisc market, and you had a lot of foreign language releases there, a lot of English releases, that type of stuff. There would, I think, be more of a need for lots of different subtitling options, and this was something that's built into a lot of LaserDisc players. Here, you would have to, I think there's only one, was it a Denon release? I think there's like one LaserDisc model that had it built in here, otherwise they have to get a special decoder, an LDG decoder, to be able to access these different features, and there's a lot more into that than just different subtitles, different subtitling options, even for some English language movies. You can move the subtitles around in the image and that kind of stuff. So really cool one in the future to be able to figure that out about LaserDisc and not really knowing that existed before because I hadn't encountered it yet. But that's really cool. So again, another one that was fun and enjoyable to watch and stars one of my favorite actresses from that period that is going to be even more fun to rewatch multiple times in the future as I learn the language, as I learn more about LaserDisc, and am able to use different subtitle versions and things like that. But yeah, some really cool, some Hong Kong movies, and those in particular, if you guys are interested, and I think some people will be, I'm going to rewatch and look up a little more information on them. I was trying to not spoil too much, talk too much about them, and do maybe some actual Laser Talk reviews. Maybe I'll split them into just maybe 2 different weeks here and go through all of them and talk about them more in depth. If you guys would like that, let me know below and talk more about some different Hong Kong movies, that type of stuff. But yeah, a lot of really cool pickups, and my first ever Cantonese language, Hong Kong movies on LaserDisc format. That's really, really cool. And Babylon 5, a whole bunch of great stuff. So a really good pickups video, and I will see you guys next time. And remember to check back, if you're watching this the day that it's going up, starting next week, my wife and I finished filming a little while ago a whole string of videos for summer of the 90s. We were both 80s babies, so most of our childhood was in the 90s. So we're doing a whole summer-long thing talking about the 90s. So pretty much from now till the middle of August, we're going to be doing summer of the 90s every Monday and Wednesday. It's going to be a different year. So Monday the 10th is going to be 1990. Wednesday is going to be 1991. Next Monday, and of course every Friday, your weekly Laser Talk. So it's going to be the format for the next 5 or 6 weeks here going into that. But make sure you check back every single week again for more Laser Talk stuff. I'm doing a couple reviews with my wife. We're trying to focus on some 90s movies, the next couple ones, because we're doing that whole thing. And then who knows where I'm going to go from there. I'll probably do more like Hong Kong stuff, and who knows, maybe more stuff will show up in the mail. You never know.